Welcome
Hey,
to another Love Tower podcast. Myself, Jamar, my friend Michael here, joining us this week. How you been doing?
doing good yourself?
Excellent, always.
Yo, it's interesting because every time you guys go live, for whatever reason, there's always some type of issue, huh? Or some type of constraint.
Sound issue or something like that.
Yeah. Well, good job. Good job in keeping it on. All right, Jamar, did you send me that clip? Because you were telling me about, what is
I
it?
got,
The
I
arc?
got, I gotta find it, but I'm gonna send it to you. But I thought it was a really good clip because I've experienced it myself. I think, like reflecting back in life. And basically, it was a clip I seen on Instagram, and he said, basically, amateurs built the ark, professionals built the Titanic. And he was basically saying like people, we take a lot of time to plan and strategize and do, really get our ducks in order before we take action. But he was saying, one action that results in, maybe even a mistake is still worth more than 100 hours of planning sometimes. And I was
Mm-hmm.
like, I think there's some truth to that too. What do you
Mm-hmm.
what do you think about that?
Yeah. Well, let me get it straight. So the arc, you're talking about like the arc where there's like Noah's Ark?
Yeah, Noah's Ark. Yeah, yeah, yeah. He said the
Oh.
Ark was built by amateurs. The Titanic was made by professionals. But still, the Titanic sunk.
Oh, interesting.
I thought that was an interesting way to kind of illustrate the point. I was like, okay.
Yeah, that's fascinating because I guess it is true. It's like yeah, because basically like with Noah's Ark, like it was a complete disaster and calamity occurring. So then they were forced into action.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
yeah, and so there was no planning. There's no, hey, like let me think about it. Like it's what do we do? What is the plan? Like let's follow through with the action.
Yeah,
And that ended up, we know the story of it, but then from there, like the Titanic on the other end, you said that it was engineered like to perfection, or it was basically created where it's supposed to be like this monumental, like,
yeah,
cruise ship that like hosted, all the wealthy people, all the affluent people, influential people. Yeah, it still crashed and burned.
yeah.
Oh
So it
man,
sunk.
interesting.
So it's like all your, sometimes, and I've seen this myself because I think, I tend to lean more to the planning side, where I feel like a lot of times, I always felt in the past that, oh, I gotta have a great plan in place. I don't want to,
Mm-hmm.
make a mistake. I want to, make sure like I'm doing it efficiently. But I think he also says in the video too, like confidence is gained through action. Like you
Yeah.
only really gain confidence when you actually take the action in doing it. And I've seen this in people too, like because I've worked in people and certain things like in app development and when people, come with certain plans, but like they have all the plans in place but no real world like understanding how to execute or like everything's theoretical.
Mhm.
Like and so when you're in that space of like everything's theory, everything's in mind, there's no real world like action taking place.
Mhm.
But really, I think like for me, what I've learned over time is that sometimes it's really like no good until you actually put it to the test in the real world.
Yeah, until you actually put like your idea to the test of reality, right?
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, I think that's true because, or I think it's very accurate, right?
Uh-huh.
It's like in entrepreneurship, you have an idea, right? But you don't know if the idea, is going to be accepted by the market
Yeah,
until you actually showcase this idea to everyone, and then you get the feedback, that data,
yeah,
and then you have to pivot and adapt from that data in order to improve and to make it useful.
yeah,
So yeah, I think it's interesting because like that. that example of the Ark and versus the Titanic.
You
Like,
know,
uh,
someone I'm very close to too, taught me that over time. It's like because I was a planner and this person is very action based, like
mm,
not the opposite of planning. And so over time I would see like they would make a lot more progress than I would make in things,
mm,
even though they weren't planning anything out very accurately. So it would
mhm.
just be like over years time I just started to I had to concede my own thinking was just like, bro, like I guess in the end, I guess action does win out over
Oh, like that. Yeah, it's interesting. Well, Lab Monkey says, "Don't get permission. Ask for forgiveness later." A wise man once shared that with me.
That's true,
Yeah,
that's true.
I can relate because, I mean, I was actually the opposite. So
Yeah,
when I first started in entrepreneurship, this was like 2012, 2013, and I I was building a business, right? And one of those in that business specifically, I didn't know better. It was my first time ever pursuing business in general, entrepreneurship in general. And
yeah.
so all I knew was here's the problem I'm trying to solve and here's a solution. And so,
Mm,
they say like the fastest point from A to B is a straight line. And so
mm,
with the straight line, all I did was just take action, like one step after the other. And
mm,
after like a year of building, I ran into one of my closest friends. His
yeah.
name is Jericho, and I just randomly ran into him at Starbucks in San Diego, and I told him like, hey, like I'm pursuing entrepreneurship. Like, let me share it with you, like what I'm doing. And he at the time was very much into pursuing his doctorate, his doctor like career and medical career, etc. And he was at a point in his life where he was thinking of pursuing either business or poker.
Oh
And
wow.
yeah, and so by us like randomly meeting at that time, I was just action, action, action. I never slowed down to think or to even plan. I just said, you
Mm,
know what? Here's where I'm at, point A. Here's the solution, point B. How do I get there? I just take action. And so I
yeah.
never planned at all. When he connected with me and we started to do business together, he would shadow me. So for the first like 30 to 90 days, he shadowed me. He like observed, he analyzed everything I did, and then I taught him everything. I was like, this is
Yeah.
why I do this is why I do this is why I do this, but it's all just action oriented to the point where we solved the problem. And then
Mm,
after a while, things were slowing down in the business, and then he started to tell me like, hey, like, you just he started to observe and give me feedback on myself, so I can get better and improve. And he
yeah.
saw blind spots that I didn't see, right? And he was telling me how I just take action all the time, but I never think, I never plan. And he
Mm,
said that, and so he introduced me to one of his mentors that he was learning from.
mm,
And that mentor became my main mentor, or one of my main mentors. And what I learned from that mentor was that, there's a certain point where you do have to plan, but you also have to take a lot more action with that specific planning. And he talked about like the frameworks, like the IP versus PI. That's what he
mm,
called it. He said the PI is someone who's patiently impatient, meaning that they're slow to start. And most people, especially in business, you want to be an IP, which is impatiently patient, meaning you want to be fast to start. And so the challenge is, how do you mix and combine the two so that way you get the optimal outcome? And it's also optimized for your own specific lifestyle, for your own behaviors, for your mindset, for your skill set. And so what I learned was, from me taking so much action, like all that massive action, I never really procrastinated. I never slowed down to think or to plan. All I did
mm,
was take action. But when I started to learn about, how do you implement plans and thinking and data into action, that's when I
mm,
started to make like a lot more progress.
mm,
And yeah, and so like I think that when it comes to like, let's say for example, like with you, with always planning first and
yeah.
then slow to take action, it's like,
Yeah.
how did that serve you in your life? And then
Mm,
how did you like, where were areas in your life where you had to be the reverse, where you just took action instead of planning? Like
yeah.
that right there is, it's an interesting like tool to use,
Yeah.
I guess.
I think I think more, I would say in business, I was more planning than action. But I would say in other areas, I was more action than planning.
Hmm.
So it was weird. It was like in some areas I was the reverse, and it was just like. But I do think what you're saying, like I don't think there is a complete like one way or the other. I do think at some point you do have to integrate both and have a balance. I do like what you're saying, where it's like you have to be quick to take action, but
Hmm.
also integrate the planning within that. Like that makes a lot of sense, especially in today's world where, you know, like technology and everything's moving so quickly. Like really the first to take action is the ones who will benefit from.
Yeah. Yeah, that's something interesting because with today's world, like how fast everything is moving, it's like, especially with AI too, like the use of AI. One thing that because I do a self audit like every now and then,
Mm,
and I noticed that I'm actually using AI a lot less right now. Like
mm,
specifically the like the large language models like ChatGPT, etc. I've slowed down in the past like 30 days of
mm,
using it. And the reason for that is because yes, like I have AI integrated into some of my workflows, but what I notice in terms of my specific, career and just work is because it's all based on accuracy, right? Like data and accuracy. And I've learned that AI is not that accurate as of right now
mm.
with my specific work. Yeah,
Yeah,
like it still helps me, but I've been able to go faster just by relying on my own like experience and
yeah.
insights versus like leaning super heavy onto AI. And
Mm.
yeah, and
That's
it's just
interesting.
yeah, it's I just know that I mean I look at signals and patterns in
Yeah.
the business world. And for myself, because I basically test. I guess one way I can say it is I test a lot of the AI stuff on my own businesses, and
Mm,
then when it comes to my clientele, I don't test big on their behalf because I don't want to mess with anything on their end. I'll share my
mm.
experiments with them and my
Yeah,
ideas and my data, but I'm not going to necessarily experiment on their businesses unless like
that
they
makes
want
sense.
to, right?
That makes
And
sense.
then yeah, one thing that I also saw was because I also like do a lot of research on YouTube, but I'm looking at the companies, like the institutional companies, the people who are doing like multi-billions, and they're
Mm,
spending a lot of money that may or may not be, the best use of their capital.
yeah.
But what one sentiment that they all share, and they're all successful, etc. They all share that AI is not that accurate as of right now, and that's what
Mm,
they're finding, and they're losing lots of money on those experiments
mm,
where like for me a small fish in the pond,
yeah.
right? I can just look at
Mm,
that insight and then I can just say, you know what, like what is the truth, or how accurate is this for my field of work and
mm,
for the use and purpose of it. And so
yeah.
I just realized like in the past, because I did my self audit in the
Yeah.
past like 30 days, my use of AI has really like declined just
Mm,
simply because of that one thing, that one insight.
yeah, I
And
can
so
see.
yeah, the
No,
accuracy. Mhm.
now, where like have you seen like the lack of accuracy in a particular area or?
Yes, yeah, yeah. So for me, because I work in business consulting and
Yeah,
marketing, social media, etc., business scale, the basically it's like this. From what I've been using in terms of the large language models,
yeah,
um, I'll give it a scenario where I already know the outcome from reality, right?
yeah.
From the actual reality, the data from actual reality, what I've done, what I've
Mm,
experienced. And I share it with LLMs, like the large language model, right? Um, Whichever one it is. And and so I share the example, I share what it think I ask what it thinks. And then
yeah.
it gives me the data of what it thinks. But I know for a fact that it's not accurate because
Mm,
I've already tested that way. I've already tried it before. And I already
mm,
know that here's the actual outcome. And
yeah.
so just with that one example, I now like extrapolate that to multiple examples over time,
Mhm,
right? Over a year, 2 years worth of me using the AI, right?
yeah.
We'll just call it chat. And so literally like I've noticed that every time I made a business decision based on what chat has told me, And
Mm.
it kind of goes against my intuition, it goes against my experience, it goes against what I know in business. I
Yeah.
end up either falling short, losing money, or it's completely wrong. And so
Interesting.
yeah, and that's just been my personal experience with
Yeah.
chat, right? But I realized, you know what? Like I already know this information. Like I don't need to necessarily rely on AI to get the outcomes that I need to create or to engineer or to manufacture.
Yeah.
So I've just been really experimenting with it, learning as much as I can,
Mm.
diving deep into it, so that way, at least like on the surface and also like a layer deeper,
Yeah.
I'm I can be as useful as possible for whoever I'm interacting with, or they need a problem solved, then I can help them, right? I
Mm.
can provide insights for my own data.
That makes
But
sense.
yeah, with that being said, though, it's like I know that AI is, it's like a child. It's at a point where it's maybe adolescent right now, or it's
Yeah.
entering its teenage years. I don't know, right? I'm just making up
Yeah.
guesses. But I know that it's learning, and I know that it learns from what we, input into it and how we engage with it. Um,
Mm.
but when it comes to like the accuracy of it and like for each use case, there's just so much happening so fast, and it's like
Yeah.
as human beings, we have 24 hours per day, right? So,
It's
but then,
hard to keep up.
yeah, but it's also like opportunity cost. It's
Yeah.
like, do I want to slow down my action, right? Taking action to learn and to collect data and to think, but also to raise my skill set with the use of AI? Or do I pick the other path where, you know what, here's my opportunity cost. For this hour, I have this scheduled. For this hour, I have this scheduled. For this hour, I have this scheduled. Here's what I need to take action on. And actually, and because I did my planning already, like,
Yeah.
calendar slot here, etc. Here's the action I'll take. Here's the output that I'm expecting. And now it's like, all right, what was like the best use of that time in hindsight after you reflect? And
Yeah.
so, yeah, with AI, it's just again, it's just to wrap this point up for for this my use of AI. I've definitely like decreased in terms of my time from
Yeah.
it. That doesn't mean that it's not the best
Like
use of
you're
my
a
time.
lending. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's like I have to be intentional with it. And then there's going to be people out there who they spend 24 hours on AI, every single day. And it's like, well, now how can I tap into their information, or how can I connect with them? What can they share with me that I don't know because they've been in that action mode of doing
Yeah.
it.
You
So,
know, it's funny that you say that because I do, you are kind of echoing what I've heard a lot of people say. It's like AI may not necessarily be to the point where you could just leave it alone by itself and just let it do whatever, no oversight. Like there still has to be a human in the loop
mhm,
to look at the oversight. And I think depending on certain areas or that people are using AI, it's some areas are more accurate than others. I think
yeah.
I've heard too a lot of people say like sometimes the AI is only um, as accurate as the data that's being put into it.
Mhm,
So the more accuracy that's in the data, the more precise the simulation that the AI is doing can be for you.
mhm,
So, but I think like right now, like what I've been telling people and what I've been seeing, like with some of the large companies and really just like people moving in the direction of is the AI agents actually,
mhm, yeah.
where it's just like automating like as much of the remedial tasks as they can to the AIs and like people just letting them like run their computers and like up to like I know a guy he has AI, multiple AI agents who are doing investing for him
Oh, wow.
24/7. Yeah.
Wow.
And and he bought some data from an actual brokerage, so it's using real data.
Mhm.
And he's monitoring it every day as it's making investments. And I asked him, I was like, is it losing or gaining? And he's like, yeah, he's like, sometimes it loses, but he's like,
Mhm.
overall, it's gaining because
Yeah.
it's actually using real strategies, it's using real data. And so, but he still has to monitor it, make
Yeah.
adjustments, but like most of it is just it running autonomously by itself. And
Yeah,
I'm just
that's
like,
wild.
bro, like I'm just like, this is the future. I think like in a
Mhm.
lot of ways, people are gonna get left behind, especially with this AI agents, because by the end of the year, like people, it's what we were saying in the beginning, first to start. It's
Yeah.
like, of course, like people are gonna make mistakes. Mistakes are gonna be made. You know, some people are gonna lose money doing
Mhm.
experiments with it. But I think the people who are really first to start with the AI agents, dude, it's gonna be like they're gonna have agents making money for them. People
Yeah.
like, how do I get on this train?
No, it's true. It's definitely true. Like I can say like with when it comes to AI use in terms of monetization, like I definitely have benefited from using like AI
Yeah.
and turning into like monetary value, right?
Mm,
So I know for a fact like that I do believe that it's going to become status quo in the
yeah.
workforce, right? With the AI agents, like there's so many workflows that you are now putting AI agents on top of to actually do the work. It's like my question now is, what is like those like what is the company that we can acquire that actually does that. So then, therefore, like I don't have to spend all the time learning how to do it. And it's like that's, but that right there, there's just so many. Like there's, even for like the children, like the next generation. Like I do have a perspective where, you know, it would be the best use of their time to learn how to use AI. You
mm,
know, if they because like to your point, I do agree with the fact that the people who are first to take action, especially in the AI
yeah.
space, like they're gonna be the next people who are like make useful companies, like for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah, it's just gonna be replacing like human work, right? Batch Buddy AI says you need AI to improve your workflow so you can enjoy your life.
Yeah. You know
Yeah,
that
it's true.
that actually is possible. Like I do think that there is like we are at kind of like a nexus point where there are two
Mhm.
possible futures. It's like there's one where we as humans utilize AI to the point where we do improve our own life, where it's like we're offsetting a lot of the workload, but we're benefit by it generating like money, for us. It's
Mhm.
obviously like it's like everything in the world. Like as we've come through history, modern life is way easier than 200 years ago or 100 years
Yeah.
ago. And so I think like as it can still go that way. Obviously, the opposite is possible too, where
Mhm.
AIs can you know, take work away from people to a certain extent. Companies like automating things. I think that's actually been happening as well. So you
Mhm.
see kind of both coming at the same time.
Exactly, yeah. And so now, like, let's say, for example, for us now, right? Like humans,
Yeah.
when it comes, like, because this reminds me of Maslow's hierarchy of needs,
Mm,
where at the very bottom of the pyramid, it's like you need those things in order to survive, right? Food, shelter, water, you name it, safety, etc. But like the way I look at, from a big picture like lens, we are not in a we're not in a time necessarily where it was worse than before. And
mm,
so when it comes to, like AI use and let's just talk about United States. Like
mm, yeah.
if you're in the United States, um, there are definitely levels to poverty, etc., and to lifestyle, but for the most part, we're in the United States versus like another country. And with the United States, there is AI. And so on the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, like where do we really fit you know, in that hierarchy, right?
Mm,
Some could say that we're in the part where we're at the very top of the pyramid, self-actualization,
mm,
where education is, freer than ever, right? We have YouTube, we have access to social media, etc. And then we have also access to AI for free, right?
mm,
Now, when we get to the point where AI starts to, really take over or replace like certain jobs or workflows, etc., then it's like we have more free time, right? We have more free time to enjoy our life. Now, at that point, right, in the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, like the self-actualization, what do people tend to do, right? Especially in today's world. Like we turn
mm.
on the TV, right? I have a remote control right here next to me.
Yeah,
Turn on the TV, we watch a movie, watch YouTube, but
yeah,
we're entertaining ourselves, right? We're
yeah.
we're gonna be a society that really leans into even more entertainment and not
Mm,
less with the ease and use of AI, freeing up our
mm.
time.
Yeah.
Now, how does that affect society? Like, is it?
That's a good question actually. That's a good question because it's like because you could say in a sense on one part like because I feel like what you're getting at is like where society is basically so focused on entertainment and certain things where they're not and there's no more difficulty. That's when a lot of other like weird things start to seep into society, like
Mhm.
where you see even like our attention, the time for our attention has gone down a lot. I think it's down to I think I've seen something where it was like our attention used to be at like 2 minutes or something like that for us to stay focused on
Mhm.
a singular thing, and now it's like 40 seconds because of social media and different things like that. So
Yeah.
it's like people are reading less. It's like almost the dumbing down of society.
Yeah. I actually saw that. I think I saw that in a YouTube video. Like,
Uh-huh.
yeah, they were talking about how the game of social media is retention.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
like,
yeah.
yeah, so it's like that's interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Well,
it's interesting because it's like, well, this that's what he's saying. People get to enjoy creative projects, family, explore new hobbies. AI will
yeah.
enforce UBI. Oh.
No, no, she's saying the opposite where it's like those are the benefits of it
Hmm.
because I mean I think in everything there's going to be positive and negatives. Like there is because you can look at it in the same sense right now. It's like I would say especially in the West, like
Hmm.
maybe we spend too much time like working, grinding. Like because if you look at Europe, for example,
Hmm.
Europe, they're a little bit more relaxed. They work in some areas they work a 4 day week instead of the 5 day week. They also take breaks midday.
Yeah.
Like large breaks in midday where those things aren't as prominent in the West. It's more like grind, 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 6 days a week, 7 days a week. We gotta money, money, money.
Yeah, hustle culture, like yeah, it seems like there's a more balanced lifestyle, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, and I think that like it is true though. It's the use of AI as we like ascend through the Maslow's hierarchy of needs as well. It's like, what is that balance? Because there's for sure going to be positives and negatives, and then
yeah.
it's like to each individual, like how do you focus your energy into what you want to experience in your life? And I would
Mm,
hope that because it's because like the next question for me comes to mind where it's like I was asking myself this question
mm,
in this place where we're in the self-actualization, we have more time than ever, we're still getting we're making money, etc. We're able to take care of our our shelter, etc., like the food.
yeah.
um where does discipline for me come into play, right?
Mm.
Because that was I was thinking
That's
about
a
that
good point.
yesterday. Yeah,
Yeah.
I was like, how do I stay accountable to myself and to like the best version I want to be? Well,
Mm,
one solution or answer was it's discipline. Well, then now it's like self-discipline. Well, how many
mm,
people in the world are going to actually, do that, right?
mm.
Because I was thinking about like I was thinking about the children, and I was like, who keeps them accountable? Well, it's their parents, right? You know,
Yeah.
and how do they stay accountable? Well, they might go to school, they might help out around the chores, they're learning to be good neighbors, like all that stuff, right? But
Yeah.
who keeps them accountable? It's their parents, right? The
Mm,
everything rises and falls in leadership. So then it's like, all right, what about like adults? And then I thought about employees. Okay, well, employees are pretty disciplined because they have a 9 to 5 job where they go, they clock in whatever time and then they clock out. But they do that every day, right? Then I was thinking about myself because I don't have a 9 to 5 job. I'm a business owner, so it's
yeah.
like, well, for me as a business owner, like if I don't make money and I don't like pay payroll or bills or whatever, then I'm not a good business owner, right? So how do I stay accountable to to being disciplined? And then I thought about,
Mm,
well, you know what? It's like in my daily routine. It's in, if I'm not working out, if I'm not meditating, if I'm not doing like the actual like inner work, that extends to the physical work, to my mindset, to learning, to reading, to getting educated, then it's like, how disciplined can I be in a world where AI is gonna, because AI did replace some of my workflows, right? But you know, there's still that balance of holding
Yeah.
myself accountable to a higher standard that I want to become, right?
Yeah.
So that right there is like a question I have, because we live in society where we have to live with other people. We have to share a reality with other people that, what if they have UBI, and what if they don't have the discipline to become a better version of themselves, or to contribute to the greater good of society?
Yeah.
Then what happens?
Those are good questions. Like, let's say for example, like with UBI, right?
Hmm.
It's like a universal basic income where, because the automation from AI is just taking over so many jobs, a lot of people are saying that eventually universal basic income may have to be like something that's needed to be implemented, just because people aren't gonna be able to have jobs. And then to your point, it's kind of like, does that kind of make us weaker as a society? Like, where, like, do we lose discipline and like the ability to, because in a sense a lot of it is the, like, discipline sometimes comes through necessity, like the
Hmm.
necessity of, like, I have to make money to do this. I have to be at work at this
Hmm.
time. I have to provide for my family. I have to, like in your case, I got to keep my business going. And so it's like, that's just an interesting thing. I do think, like, because you could look at it like 100 years from before now, were people more disciplined? Were they harder workers? Were they
Hmm.
stronger people? I think most people will say yes, that's the case. What do you what do you
Yeah, I guess it depends on what kind of work they're doing, right? But I
Yeah,
would say, I would say that I think majority of people would say yes,
yeah,
but because it's also like the world that people lived in back then. It's kind of like Plato's cave, I think.
yeah.
It's like the whole, like, okay, this is like it's a different topic, okay? Um, it reminds me of the world we're in today, where individuals are put on a pedestal. So, for example, like we have influencers, we have
Mm,
celebrities, we have
mm,
powerful leadership everywhere, but it's individual people being put on pedestals. And
mm,
then back in the day, we had communities, we had tribes, we had, like, your neighborhood, we had um, like your family, right? We
yeah,
had so it was not, the pedestal back then was community, neighborhood, family, your tribe,
mm,
right?
yeah,
Today's world, it's like the individual, the personal brand, right? Personal brand is like, people are
mm,
saying like the founder led brands are now a big thing. Um, operator led brands are a big thing. You must build your personal brand in an AI world, because how are you going to differentiate yourself from everyone else, right?
mm,
So this is what I'm seeing big picture wise. I
yeah,
don't have like a very strong opinion on it just yet, because I want to just spend a little more time thinking. But
yeah,
when it comes to like what I'm seeing, individual versus like the rise of the community, it's like I can see both happening at the same time. But
mm,
which, when it comes to like, which one now works harder, it's hard for me to say, because it's like every single day it seems like everyone's working as hard as they can.
mm,
But I don't know, right? I really don't know.
yeah,
And then it's like with AI, with social media, it's like I can work an hour a day, and
yeah,
that will be my whole day of work done.
yeah.
So
That's
yeah.
that's interesting. I gotta answer to that though. It's like,
uh
I think, like, each individual, like, let's say for example, like right now, like, and whatever, like when I'm working daily, like I may think like, man, this is hard, bro. Like,
mhm,
man, like I'm working hard. But let's say I go to freaking Africa or Thailand, and then I see
mhm,
like workers working in a rice field on a hot day, and then I see that and experience that, then suddenly, all of a sudden, in my perspective, it's like, damn, I guess I don't really work that hard actually. Like what I'm doing actually doesn't take that much.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, but it's only between the contrast of the two that you actually gain clarity to be like, oh wow, okay, like what I'm doing isn't as difficult as I thought it was. It doesn't actually
Yeah.
take as much energy. I was just in my head because I've experienced that in my own life. I feel like,
Mhm.
and sometimes I'll feel like, oh man, this is so hard. Oh, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. And then I experience something else that someone else is doing, or I have
Yeah.
my own experience where I'm doing something else and I'm just like, oh man, I was just spoiled, bro.
Yeah, exactly. I think a good question to ask, or a different question to ask instead of like, is it harder? Are we working harder back then or now? I think another question to ask would be like, what kind of work are you doing that's useful, right? Or is the work you're doing useful, right?
That's a good question.
Yeah, because then it's like, all right, well, what is the purpose of the work that you do? So
Mm,
let's say, for example, like the workers, that let's say that person who's working in Thailand, who's doing useful work, right?
mm,
Regardless if it's hard or not, because I'm pretty sure it's hard, but or I can assume that it would be hard, like working in a rice field. That's definitely hard, intensive labor, right?
yeah,
But is that useful work? Well, to me, the answer would be yes,
yeah,
right? So then now let's come to America, right? I'm in my career, I have to do social media as part of it. Is
yeah.
that useful work? Now it's like compared to what, right?
Mm,
And then what's the
mm,
purpose does it serve? For me, one aspect of my work in social media is I get to choose, I get to be in a position where I get to choose what message do I amplify, right?
mm, mm,
Now, do I want to amplify? This was this morning, like I was working on some social media stuff, and I was like, is this message something that I want to amplify, or do I have to use discernment? Like they call it divine discernment. Do I need to use divine discernment where it has nothing to do with me, but it has everything to do with how it will affect the masses, or how it will affect one individual person that watches this? So now, what role do I play? How useful is my work to someone else? And that's where, like, in my mind this morning, I was like, I gotta make sure that I'm always refining myself. I have to make sure that I pick and choose and be intentional with every clip I make in order to make sure, or to ensure, to the best of my knowledge and ability, that I can amplify the right message for the right person. And
yeah.
is that work useful for me then? So it's like,
Mm.
these are just some
That's powerful.
interesting things.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's powerful. It's a completely different like level. Um, but yeah, it's almost like they're two completely different things, but useful in different ways. That's interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, because I
That's,
think that I believe that there is a purpose for everyone and what they do with their lives.
yeah,
And I do believe that, it's up to their choice though, at the end of the day, like whether they take action or not, right?
yeah,
It's like, well, what action do they take? And then because there's this good book called The Compound Effect.
yeah.
And have you read that one?
No, I've heard of it though. I think I've
Oh,
heard you mention it maybe.
that one is a good one. That
What is
one's
that
like,
about?
so the compound effect, basically just to summarize it, but I highly recommend to pick it up. It was one of the first personal development books I picked up. It was the first one I did, and so it basically talks about how each individual decision compounds over time to the point, like from the
Mm.
moment that you were born all the way till now, every single decision that you made was part of the compound effect.
Oh,
And
interesting.
but even before you though, it was your parents. Like every single decision that they made, it led to your birth. Every
Mm.
single decision that their grandparents made led to them and to you, and so on and so forth forever, right?
Yeah.
And so for every single decision that we all make, every individual person, every community, every organization, just every single being, right? Every single decision that we make, it changes something. There's a cause and effect. Whatever that is, we don't know in the grand scheme of things, for the most part, but every single decision that we make shapes reality, right? Every
Mm.
action we take shapes reality. whether it's a good or bad, positive or negative, whether we do take action or we don't take action, right?
Yeah.
Whether we just plan forever or, it goes back to the beginning topic, right?
Yeah.
So, because there's also timing too. It's like, what if you planned so much and then it delayed something from happening, but it was supposed to happen that way, and then you take action and then it changes the outcome of something else, and then
Yeah.
it, like, so all of these things, it's kind of like under this umbrella of the compound effect, that concept. And
Yeah.
so yeah, when it comes to, inter engaging the compound effect into our daily lives, into like the work that we do, into, how our mindset is shaped, how we carry ourselves through a stressful day, for example. Like every single thing, every single decision that we make, it ultimately shapes our destiny. And
Mm.
when it comes to us being responsible for that, right? Like whether we're conscious of it or not. When it comes to, like, tying it back to the very beginning of our conversation, right? Like planning versus taking action, right?
Yeah.
Or even like the Ark versus the Titanic, right?
Yeah.
Every single thing had a decision that was made, therefore, affecting our reality. So it's
Mm.
like, what are those decisions that, we have to make? And how useful are those decisions in terms of the outcome? Or, there's so much to think about, right? It's I can't translate it in words. So like, what is in my mind?
That
So
that's interesting actually. Like I actually like that to think like that, the compounding effect of like all your actions, like not as separate, because I think as humans we kind of, just the way our minds are designed, we only see the connection between the actions that are maybe before and after, but not necessarily the actions that we take, 5 years ago to where we are today.
mhm,
Like I forgot what book I was reading, but it was something that I was seeing about the I Ching, and someone who had a theory how like even your days that were, like, let's say when you were a kid, was connected to a day when you're 20 years old.
oh wow.
Like there's an actual like connection between them. We don't consciously like see the connection because we don't see the incremental. But this starts to get into, you can even go deeper into where it's just like, because like you were saying, that you've been created uh, by decisions that were made even before your birth.
Hmm.
So your parents like getting together, like your DNA, what that's created of the history of your DNA and all the information and data that goes into that creates who you are. Like a lot of the decision making and the things that's happening in your life are things that have been coming into play like even before your birth. So
Hmm.
like you have to ask the question is like how much of your decision making, like, do you really have like
Hmm.
conscious control of? Like, because you're already like a lot of the decisions have already been made for you. You know what I mean? Like
Hmm.
you're born into a certain family, you are a certain race or you live in a certain area or a certain income level. Like so this already starts to shape your decision making. This is where people start to get into that question of like, is there free will? Is there no free will? Like it's
Hmm.
an interesting question.
That is
I like
interesting.
thinking like that. Yeah.
That is an interesting question. That was actually a question that popped up in my mind last night, because
Really.
yeah, I was watching Mission Impossible: The Final
Mhm.
Reckoning, and
You watched it.
bro, yeah, I'm gonna watch it again. It's really really good.
Yeah.
But there's I'm gonna watch it again because there one thing that I really appreciate about movies is the script.
Mm,
And because the script, every single word that's said in a movie, every single line that's shared, the intentionality of what is shown, like
mm,
there's an intention behind it, right? That's just my
mm,
opinion. And but that's what I really appreciate about movies, because in movies, what I receive from movies, it's kind of like it's data to me.
Yeah.
And yeah, and but it's inspiring data. It's like inspiring messages to me. And you know,
Mm.
some people like will watch a movie and then they'll get something completely different than what I get, right?
Yeah.
But there was one thing that I wanted to share because because you watched it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so okay, so just a spoiler alert for anyone who hasn't seen it yet. But I'll just reference what you know or what you'll remember. But there is a message from Luther, right, to Ethan Hunt. And in that message, like it's like a monologue, right? It's a speech. And in that message, it talks about, at least to me, it was like there is some, I guess, correlation or connection to like, do we have willpower or do we have free will, right?
Mm.
And yeah, because he's talking
Mm.
about how uh, we are the masters of our fate, right? We
Mm.
are the master of our fate. That whole monologue, that I'm gonna
Yeah.
watch it again because that whole monologue, it to me, what I received from that was because he says like we are the sum of our infinite choices, right?
Mm.
And you know, when it comes to taking action, it's like, well, we are what we take action on, right? We
Mm.
What we do is who we become, right? In that
Mm.
process, it goes back to like that be do have framework, right?
Yeah.
Whoever I am, it's simply because of what I've done, and therefore that's because of what I've done, that's what I have, right? And
Mm.
you know, you can connect those three all at the same time if you want. You can
Yeah.
piece them up from past, present, future. You can do whatever it is with that concept, but if we are the masters of our fate and we have infinite choices that we can make, we can create, we can choose, we can decide to do, then when it comes to, you know, the paralysis of analysis, when it comes to the Love Tower's mission, when it comes to what we eat for breakfast, when it comes to all these different choices that we have at our forefront, you know, what decision do we make that for what purpose? Therefore, it results into something that positively impacts the world, or it negatively impacts the world, right?
Mm.
There's just, yeah, all these things like popped up into my mind. And then it goes back to like, well, do we have free will?
Yeah.
And if we do, or if it doesn't matter, like, what do we do then, right? What actions do we take? What plans do we
Mm.
make? Who do we connect with? Who do we build relationships with? Right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's just,
Now think
oh, good.
about this. Now think about this. It's like, so that's the question right there. It's like,
Mm,
how do you decide? Because if you're in an infinite sea of possibilities, then how do you know the direction to take? Now this gets into like the difference between AI and like a human. It's like, so where there's a documentary, I think it's forgot the name of the documentary, but it's a documentary about a computer, a supercomputer that is it IBM or I forgot who made it, but it's called AlphaGo. It's about a supercomputer that they built to play a master Go player.
mhm.
I think he's ranked like number 4 in the world, so he's like one of the world's best Go players. I think it's a Chinese game. Have you seen it?
Yeah, I've
Where
seen
it's
it.
like the black and white pieces, and it's really complicated. It's more complicated than even chess.
Yeah.
But they were thinking that like it would take years to create a computer that could beat one of these master level players, right?
Mhm.
And so in the game there so the supercomputer actually ended up like surprising everyone and ended up beating him 4 games out of 5. But the game
Oh.
that he was able to beat it was because the computer couldn't calculate a specific move that he made. He made a move that it calculated only 1 in 10,000 human players would make.
He did
So he was able to find a small thread in between his calculations where he was able to actually beat it. And so that what it reminded me of is like I think like in terms of like in our lives like there's so many decisions and so many things that we we are kind of lost sometimes as to what direction to go, what decision to make, where we need to, what path we should take. The thing that makes us human is the intelligence that goes beyond the brain, is the heart. And
Yeah.
so when you can connect into the heart and be able to, that's the guidance system that goes beyond. You know, it's funny that you brought up movies too, because in a lot of, I feel like in a lot of books and movies and different things, like this same type of uh understanding is kind of uh narrative is kind of brought at a very subtle level for people to understand. Like I think it's just something that's within like the human consciousness, like that we understand on a very subtle level. But it's
Mm-hmm.
like it's only when you're connected through the heart where you can, where the fog becomes clear, where you can make that 1 in 10,000 like choice, and you can see the thread, that one thread between all the possibilities that gets you to the goal. It's like that scene in Dune. I like that scene in Dune. I don't know if you remember this scene, but he's speaking and he's saying, "All I see is possibilities where we fell in every path.
Mm-hmm.
I see one thin path in which we make it."
Bro, those are good examples right there.
Yeah, it's interesting.
So then the question now is like, how do we pivot and adapt along the way, right, to
Mm,
that destination,
yeah.
right? So then my
Right.
question is like, well, do we take action faster, right?
Mm,
Or because we're always going to plan throughout the entire time, but it's like, what is the difference is taking action, right? Actually,
mm,
like putting our, what we think in terms of our efforts, our willpower
mm,
against reality to get the data to therefore plan further and then to take action again, right? Just finding that 1 in 10,000 like pathway,
yeah.
like because we can definitely plan. I mean, we could simulate a lot, right? But at the end of the day, it's like we have we have 24 hours in a day, right?
Yeah.
When the sun rises, like we should take action. When the sun sets, we can probably plan and then repeat it again faster, right? What is like that, how do we get to that, not how, but like what is the pathway to finding that 1 in 10,000, you know line where we have the needle going through? It's like
Heart centered action.
heart center action.
Yeah.
That is okay. I love that.
Heart centered action.
That sounds
Because
like medicine.
that's the place in which we use, like, whether you call it intuition, whether you call it like the subconscious or whatever it is, it's like we're connecting. Um, like I've heard Joe Dispenza speak about like the calculating ability of the conscious mind versus the
Mhm.
subconscious mind, where the subconscious can calculate, you know, thousands or hundreds of thousands of pieces of data, per second, versus the conscious mind can only, calculate, a few pieces of information per second. So it's like when you're connected to heart-centered action, you're tapping into that more subtle mind. So
Mm.
you can actually calculate the possibilities at a higher scale, even though you're not consciously doing it.
Yeah, bro, I love that. Heart centered action. That okay. I got this is so good. Heart center action is that is the path. So then now the question is, in a world where there is just so much noise, right? So much noise, so much distraction, so many messages blocking the heart, right?
Mm,
One could say that there is forces out there literally trying to do that.
mm,
So in this scenario, right, or in this example, how do we protect the heart? How do we amplify that heart, and not only that,
mm,
but then therefore direct it into action then, right?
mm. Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think today is just a battle of everything. I call it the great forgetting. Like
Mm.
like this time and period of time is the great forgetting. Like what we, especially the Love Tower, I think, this is just my own personal belief. We want to invoke the great remembrance, where it's
Mm.
like right now, like everything in society is pushing us towards, like we were saying earlier, the hustle culture.
Hmm.
But that pushes you to a certain extent outside the heart. Like even if you look at the corporate world, or especially in the West, in the United States, like everything's profit. It's corporations over people. It's
Hmm.
money
Hmm.
over people. It's the bottom line over. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's like in a lot of ways, like we forget in our society, room for compassion, room for understanding, room for love. Like everything is about profit. We need
Hmm.
to, or ego, like everything's, and even social media kind of creates a narrative where we need to focus on ourselves, love, you know, like that self-love movement even gets me and um, uh, we were talking about this on the other podcast where we were talking about how the self-love movement has kind of got hijacked. Me and Kelly were talking about that,
Hmm.
where it's just like the self-love movement. It's been positive in a lot of ways, but it's also gone negative in a lot of ways as well. And
Hmm.
so, in so many ways, like we're getting so pulled out of the heart instead of really taking the time, especially in modern society, and really taking the time to do things with compassion, even in business,
Hmm.
doing business in a compassionate way. Kind of like what you were saying, like how
Yeah.
you were thinking of the content that you're putting out and how it's going to affect,
Yeah.
other people. That's you connecting to the heart.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
100%.
yeah.
Bro,
That's
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 a
the
good
shit.
connection right there.
Yeah,
It's like, so then now for everyone who may watch this, right? It's, and especially for those who do believe in this, right? Because there's, I guess, like what you said, like because I wrote it down, like the great forgetting versus the great remembering, right? Or great remembrance. Like that's a good concept right there because I would say like that's pretty accurate. It's like
yeah,
there's a lot of people out there that, at least from what I've seen on social media, there are
mm,
people that it's very polarized. It's like they're either on one side or they're on the other side. And
yeah,
then not only that, but it's like what I'm seeing as the thing that's missing is exactly what you said, the heart-centered action,
yeah,
right? Especially from people who have platforms, like
yeah,
people who are in business or they have a lot to gain basically from gaming this kind of like example or system.
yeah.
And but is it for the benefit of everyone else? Is it for the greatest good of all? And
Even
yeah.
yeah, even if you look at the algorithms, it's
Hmm.
all tilted to bring us into more extremism, like you just
Yeah.
mentioned, politics, like brings us into more extremism. Everything's pulling us out of the heart-centered, like remembrance, and that's where we have our navigation center. That's our navigation center is the heart. That's our how we navigate all of those potential
Mhm.
possibilities. That's why you have so many people, and nowadays, even though life is easier for us in a lot of ways, like that's how we're so lost. That's how we
Mhm.
feel sicker. That's how we become weaker. Like all these things are happening in modern society. A lot of it is because we're so disconnected to the heart.
Mhm.
There's no village anymore. It's just the individual.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's just I'm seeing that more and more again. It's like that's why, when it comes to like the Love Towers content, because this is like something that I was wrestling with. I was wrestling with the fact that, we have to get attention, right, from social media,
Yeah.
but with the way that social media works, it doesn't necessarily amplify a positive message, for the most part.
Mm,
But at the same time, that could be a limiting belief, and
mm,
it could be because the lack of higher action that we've been taking in terms of like the frequency of action, right?
Yeah.
Something that I wanted to test for Love Tower was, posting a lot more clips per day, which is something that I do already in other businesses. And it's
Yeah.
like, why not do that for the Love Tower?
Yeah.
And it just came down to systems and structure. That's all it is, right? But
Yeah.
also like the content, right? So that's why I love how you've been hosting the Love Tower podcast, because
Yeah.
literally it's like content, content, content. But now it's like I use my
Yeah.
discernment to amplify the right messages
Yeah.
accordingly. But at
Well,
the same time, it's like the question is, because I can definitely clip up like some content that could be polarizing
yeah.
and maybe potentially go viral.
Yeah.
However, it's like you have to use the divine discernment, right? It's like, what does this, how does this affect someone, an individual on the other end, hearing this type of message, and it's coming from the Love Tower? Like, is it upholding unity, kindness, compassion, love? Is it showcasing and amplifying heart-centered action?
Mm.
That's like that's kind of like at least one challenge I see, or just one obstacle that like we need to overcome when it comes to the social media. It's like
Mhm.
we're very diverse already,
Yeah.
like we're still in the beginning stages of the Love Tower.
Yeah.
Not enough people even know about the Love Tower, right? But for those who do, like they show up, they show support, they send love, and but it's like, how do we continue to amplify and reach the more people, just like the community already,
Mm.
that will help us, progress forward in the mission? And,
Mm.
to that point, it's like, because for me, as making sure like I do the clips and edit, I don't want to amplify the wrong messages. I don't want to, yeah, like knowing the fact that we're probably going to get less views, knowing the fact
Mhm.
that we're probably going to not reach, a wide demographic or audience.
Yeah.
But it's about, to me, it's about the resonance. It's about like, it's about like really attracting the right people
Yeah.
with the right message for
You
this
hit
right
it.
purpose.
You hit it right there.
Hmm.
It's like the company, like for companies, like think about it like this. If you have an organization, whether it's a nonprofit or especially for-profit
Hmm.
companies, where how do you make a decision as a corporation when your existence um resides on you pulling in more money for
Hmm.
you to make a heart-centered decision that is not necessarily good for the bottom line, but better for the people. Like, how
Hmm.
many companies do you think that actually do that? Like, isn't that an interesting thought?
Yeah, it's
Like,
definitely interesting.
and especially where you have like AI is the perfect example of that. It's like you have all these companies right now that are basically incentivized to push to the limit
Hmm.
for profit perfect purposes for their investors and everything like that. But then at the same time, is it good for humanity at the pace that it's going? So it's
Hmm.
like you can see almost in every aspect of society, like there is always the decision of, do we stay at the heart or do we move away from the heart? Like you could actually
Hmm.
break almost every decision down to that.
Oh. Yeah, that's true though. It's true. Sorry, I'm reading the comments. Windowless says amplify how to navigate what is happening in the world. Yeah, we can
Mm,
definitely do that with the heart-centered um intention, right? Tina
mm.
Loves Music says, I'm looking for the live meditation.
Oh, the live meditation. Oh, so I'm supposed to do the meditation at 12 o'clock. I think we went.
Sorry, my bad. Sorry. Okay, well, it's at
Yeah,
12
we did.
o'clock.
Yeah, actually, we'll do it in probably 5 minutes because I gotta put the get the
Yep.
music set
Yeah,
up.
do your thing. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, we'll talk next time.
I didn't realize we went so long.
All right, thank you. Sending you love.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay,
Thank
bye.
you guys for joining. I'll be back on in about 5 minutes and we'll do the meditation.